One thing I wanted to talk about today is this kind of trait that leads to a lot of problems for both men and women when it comes to dating. And this seems to be the fundamental ingredient behind why people tend to get rejected, neglected, and dismissed. And it tends to be neediness. And not only am I going to talk you through what neediness is and what are the signals of it, but also how to overcome it in the most effective way. Okay? So neediness is essentially when you invest in a human being far more than they're investing in you. You are searching for their approval of you, and also you have formed an attachment without their consent. And what I mean by that is if two people are equally invested in each other, it's very difficult to be needy. You both might be needy, but you reciprocate it. When it's one-sided or you've formed an attachment without their consent, and what I mean by consent, I don't mean permission, I just mean they haven't actually given you the reason to be this attached, or they haven't actually reciprocated it enough for you to be this attached. You've just formed an attachment in your mind because they fit a criteria that you've been looking for in your life. And you haven't actually looked for the fundamental ingredient of reciprocity to kind of be the fuel for your attachment. Instead, you've just decided that you're hyper attracted to them, or that they fit your criteria of a man, or because you're lonely and you really want to attach to somebody. You've just made a decision without the person's consent. And unfortunately, neediness in women, it can be a bit off-putting if it's too early, but in men, it's entirely off-putting. A needy man is almost repulsive to most women, particularly women with high self-esteem. The only type of woman that will accept a needy, desperate kind of man is a woman that has a lot of issues within herself. Either she's got narcissistic traits where she kind of wants a man to be begging and over-attached and she kind of dismisses him, or she's someone so deeply insecure and been hurt so many times that she misreads this neediness as a signal of attachment when really it's a signal of his low self-esteem. So it leads to you attaching and attracting to the wrong people, men and women. Neediness will allow you to only be compatible with people who are trying to use you. It will not lead to actual compatibility. So we need to make sure we remove neediness from our dating lives as much as we possibly can. And it's very difficult. I'm a very needy person myself. I know exactly what it's like when you over-attach to somebody. So I understand it's very difficult. But it's essential to remove this. Now, how somebody knows that you're being needy is you're not reading the room. And what I mean by this is we as human beings, we give signals when we're interested and not interested. So that might be late replies. It takes a really long time for us to reply to you. Now, some people are naturally busy. It does happen. But when you know the person's not that busy, they've got a regular job, or when you know that person is like, even when you text them in their free time, they're still taking long to reply. When you still show the same level of attachment, it means you're not reading the room. You're not reading their signals. It signals neediness. So they're taking long to reply. Another thing is they might cancel a lot of dates. They might cancel on you more than once, and they don't actually initiate new, and it doesn't seem like a valid reason. It just seems like they're just not invested. So they're canceling on you. Now, I'm not saying you completely dismiss that person and remove yourself from that person, but you reduce some of your investment in that person. What needy people will do is remain equally attached regardless of the cancelled plans. Yeah? So they might cancel plans. The other thing that they might do is they prioritize other people above you, whereas you don't prioritize anybody above them. So I'm not saying they're wrong for prioritizing people above you, but they might say, I'm with my friends this weekend, or I'm going to go see my nephew, or I'm going to go do this. They're not really making room for you in their life. What a needy person will do is not see their friends, not spend time with their family, keep their schedule totally empty, just in case this person is available. So they're not prioritizing you in any way, shape, or form. Another thing is how they communicate with you. Needy people will almost overexpress how interested they are, or they might not at all, but their actions are really needy. But there's some level of overexpression. What the non-needy person is like is they don't reciprocate those words of affirmation. So you might be complimenting them a lot. You might be telling them how much you like them. You might be telling them how great they are. The reason why that's unattractive is until we've given you reason to be attracted to us, we don't like affirmations. And what I mean by that is, if I've been nothing but rude and disrespectful to you, and you still tell me I'm great and fantastic, I don't like that. That's a dissonance. In my mind, I'm not understanding why you're seeing so much positive in me when I haven't even shown you positivity. So I start to doubt your judgment. I start to think that you are weak. I start to think that you are needy. And so when we still compliment and affirm somebody who's not given us many reasons to do that, we come across as needy. Right? So it's that neediness in general. Now, needy people, what tends to be the case is they tend to not have many alternatives in their lives, not just with people, but in their lives. So their life is not one that they really thoroughly enjoy. They don't have friends that they actually enjoy the company of. They just might be passing time with them, but they don't really enjoy the company of. They don't enjoy their work that much. They are not really that busy. They spend a lot of time comparing themselves to others. Needy people tend to live a life that they're not enthralled by. Yeah, and it's very hard to have a captivating life all day, every day. But we don't need it to be captivating and exciting. We just need it to feel somewhat secure. Needy people tend not to have that in their life. They don't have many connections. They don't have many people in their life. They don't really enjoy their work. They don't have anything that they're passionate or hobbies about. There's nothing in their life that allows them to enter a flow state. And what I mean by a flow state is where you forget the world. You just go and do this and you forget everything else. So for example, it might be somebody likes riding horses or playing the piano. When they start doing that, they forget everything else. When you have that, you can exercise an element of non-neediness. When you don't have that, you have nothing that will help you escape the thoughts of the partner that you're attracted to. And as a result, you end up being a little bit too attached to them. Yeah, you become too attached to them. So, neediness in general, it's usually caused by us rather than the person being fantastic. It's usually caused by our lack of alternatives rather than the person being the one or somebody that's great. Now, one way that people have dealt with trying to overcome their neediness is to kind of go on the other end of the extreme and become a bit narcissistic. And what that means is they might be the one cancelling dates. They might not text back, might never give them any compliments, might completely keep them at arm's length and, put women down or put men down and say, I don't need them. All women just want money. All men just want sex. They become a bit negative and a bit narcissistic. The problem with that is that it's the underlying neediness is actually still there. You just now have just pretended that you don't want it. You're pretending to act cool. You're pretending not to reply fast. You're actually pretending. So eventually you'll still get hurt. Either you'll pretend too much and the person thinks you're not interested, or your mask will come off and the neediness will eventually showcase. So how you actually deal with neediness is the first and foremost thing is you distinguish between people who are interested, not interested. You have to really make it very clear to yourself that you know the difference and only attach to people who are interested. That's the first key if you want to remove your neediness. What needy people do is attach to whoever they like, whether they're highly attracted to them or whether they, are very in awe of their persona, and that's the person they want to be with. Essentially, we only have a pool of people who are interested in us to actually form a good relationship with. If they are not interested in us, there is nothing you can actually do to penetrate that. Very little. And worst case scenario, you might have to wait until they have completely given up on finding love, and they might resort to the person that's always been there throughout their life and is always available. But you don't want that. That's not the person you want to be with. So the main thing to remember is how you remove the neediness is only invest in people who invest in you. That's the first and foremost. Look for mutual investment. Second thing is when you have found that person, you try and match their level of investment. So if you find that on the weekends they're making plans with their friends, you don't necessarily be like, okay, I'm not going to be with you anymore. But you learn that maybe I should just make plans with my friends on the weekends rather than just waiting for them to decide something. Maybe I'll make something, a brunch or a dinner with a friend of mine who I haven't seen in a while. And therefore I have something to look forward to. So if he doesn't turn up, or if she doesn't turn up, it's not the end of the world. I still have a backup in my life that I enjoy. So the first thing is like you invest as much as they invest in you. The worst thing you can do is overinvest in the person that's not showing interest in you. You have to just match their energy, and not only do you have to match their energy, but it won't work if you're matching their energy but secretly you're dying to hear from them. It matches the energy, but you then take them off their pedestal. That's the most important part. You take them off their pedestal. If you feel like somebody's making you feel really needy and you're really over-attaching and you're doing too much to get their attention, the most important thing to do is realize that as somebody who's making you work this hard, or somebody that's igniting this reaction, or somebody who's not investing as much as you are investing in them, is not somebody you would enjoy a relationship with anyway. If you were to be with them, you wouldn't enjoy this relationship. It wouldn't be successful. It would end up ending at some stage anyway, or with them taking advantage of you. So you stop and think, no matter how much I like them, if they're not liking me, they can't be that great. Rejection is God's way of protecting you from a relationship that wasn't going to work anyway. So it's almost good. We need it. So it's making sure we understand that this was never going to work. I've now saved time. Rather than wasting 2 or 3 years begging this person, I've now been given the gift of time. So you take them off their pedestal. And the final thing is to try and meet alternatives. When somebody is not reciprocating your energy, what needy people do is they become hyper loyal to that person. I'm all for loyalty. I think it's the best thing you can do, but only to those that love you and reciprocate it. Loyal to people who are not loyal to you, who are not dedicated to you, is a signal of neediness and low self-esteem. It is not a virtue. It's not something to be proud of. It's something to actually be embarrassed about, because your loyalty should be a result and a reward for somebody who's loving and loyal to you. Your loyalty to somebody who's not loving and loyal to you is a signal of a lack of alternatives. It just means you can't either walk away or you can't find somebody better. Either way, it's not a virtue. So the best thing to do is to try and find alternatives, okay? So neediness, the main thing is to only start by selecting people who select you, only invest as much as they are investing in you, take them off their pedestal, and always have alternatives, okay? Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week.